It's harvest time, and all over the country, the race is on to bring in our food.
And what's fantastic about our island is that over half of what we eat is produced here.
British growers are at the top of their game. Many of the crops they grow are truly world-class.
But with unpredictable weather and changing consumer tastes, it's a tough business. Have we had enough summer sun for a bumper crop? Or has this year's wet August washed away the harvest?
This is the time of year where growers across the land find out whether the blood, sweat and tears they've poured into their farms has paid off. From acres of oats in the north to mountains of sugar beet in the east.
And orchards of apples in the west. We're following the harvests of some of Britain's top producers in 3 distinct growing regions, each with their own unique set of challenges.
This is the moment of truth. Who's had a good year? Who's felt the crunch? We're going to find out.
This is Harvest 2015. Welcome to Scotland.
Last night we reported harvest from a sun-drenched southeast. Tonight we're in a rather chillier, very grey Perthshire to bring you the cereal harvest.
Yeah, the weather's changed quite a bit. As you can see behind us, the harvest has already started, but the combines have been cooled off because there's just been too much rain. And the first drops of another wave of it are starting right now.
Our focus on tonight's programme is in an area that stretches from Yorkshire right up to Shetland. Its landscape and its climate means it can be a challenging place to farm, but that doesn't mean it hasn't got its positives too.
This area, on a good year, can deliver some of the highest grain yields in the world.
Tonight, we're with one cereal farming family to see if 2015 lived up to potential. And if it wasn't for all the rain, they'd be out there now, gathering their oats.
And we'll meet some other very resourceful farmers, turning the growing challenges of being up here into opportunities.
I meet a rising star in the fruit world, the mighty blueberry. And get a taste for some colourful carrots. Is it orange in the middle or is it pink?
No, it's pink, right through.
Yeah!
I find out about one of Scotland's most lucrative harvests.
And our farming reporter, James Manning, meets some lovely ladies helping bring in our biggest harvest.
What a sight, what a sight. Happy cows turning grass into milk.
It may be tough up north, but get it right and the rewards can be rich.
You all right, Philippa?
Bit wet.
Yeah, well, if this was a lovely sunny day, we'd have a marvellous view here. As it is, you can just about see through the drizzle and the grey clouds, the beautiful River Tay behind me. But what is obvious is there's lots of fields exactly the same as this one that haven't yet been harvested.
It's been a really tricky growing year, actually, up here. It was a very slow spring, and then summer was cold, which meant that the crops took a long time to ripen.
Well, we're here to see what effect all this rain is having and meet the family that own these wet crops. 3 generations of the Hay family work together to run the 2,000-hectare farm. Grandfather Chuck, Father David, and son Finlay.
Definitely say farming's in my blood. It's been in the family since 1892. Great-great-grandfather came here with his family, and it's just been passed down the generations.
We grow wheat, we grow barley, winter and spring barley, winter oilseed rape, and a lot of spring oats. We used to grow potatoes in the past, but not so much currently. Harvest time is a great time of year. It's an opportunity to see your last 12 months' work.
Working hard and loving what you do is a great recipe.
He's been very, very supportive over the years I've been involved in the farm. I hope I can do the same with Finlay and be an inspirational encouragement.
What I used to go out is sit in this tractor seat with Dad for hours on end as a 5- and 6-year-old. Knowing it's been in the family so long, and every generation before me for the last 5 or 6 has looked after this place and improved it and built on it, I definitely feel a slight sort of pressure to continue doing that. But it's a good thing to have. I'm massively lucky, I understand that.
You don't want to be the one who blows the business for your predecessors in the family. They usually say the first one makes it, the second one grows it, and the third one blows it. So we've got past the 3rd generation, so I'm the 4th, and my son's the 5th, so we're hanging in here, as they say. I think we work quite well together. I've got a bit of experience, and he's got the modern technology, so we try and pull both things together.
We're slightly different. I am probably a bit more laid back. He's slightly more uptight, I think, which works quite well together. I'm sometimes a calming influence on him, and he's sometimes a boot up the backside for me.
With the next generation coming into the business, David's got more time to pursue his other great passion, coaching the Scottish ladies curling team to great success.
As the clock ticks in my life, I'm happy to take more of a backward seat whenever possible and pass more across the table to Finlay. But no, he's good. He's bringing some new ideas, fresher ideas, and I think the future is good long term.
David, lovely to meet you, and apart from these beautiful surroundings, why is it that you love it here?
I think, Greg, the key thing is this is home for us. I've been here for 53 years. Home is home. I love living in this part of the world. Beautiful scenery, 7 miles southeast of Perth. Can't get better.
And what about this as farming? What's good about it?
Well, we're farming on some very, very good quality soils here. It's alluvial silt soil. It's been formed back in the ice ages by the cutting of the ice coming through these mountains and leaving us with some good silt soils to farm on.
Silt soil. What's good about that?
Well, it's free of stones. It's good quality soil that can keep the moisture in there all year round. We can grow good crops of wheat, barley, oats.
So apart from loving it, beautiful place to look at, great soil, drawbacks?
Drawbacks this year, the weather. This year in particular, we've had a very wet June, July, persistent rain and low sunshine hours.
Why is June and July so relevant?
Well, that's the key time of the year when the oat crops here, when they swell the head, swell the grain, which is the key part. We want the grain in these oat heads to be as big as possible. So when it goes to the mill, to be milled, to turn into porridge oats, we get a big crop. And this year, for example, we didn't get the same benefit. So we're running about 2 weeks late in the harvest. This crop should be ready for harvesting now.
So what do we need now? We need it to dry out? Or?
Yeah, we need sunshine. We need sunshine. That's absolutely soaking. Try some yourself and you'll see it's very, very wet. That won't harvest today.
Yeah, that feels like a damp flannel.
Exactly.
No, it really does.
Yeah.
So what stops you harvesting it damp?
It's the combine harvesters can't separate the grain from the chaff. The grain being the good part, this part here we want to turn into porridge, and the chaff being the shell on the outside. So when it's wet, it all sticks together just like a damp flannel, like glue. We need to be able to shake it apart.
And if it's dry, you keep the kernel.
Absolutely.
And the rest, what, blown away?
Blown away, over the back.
Mate, I see. Yeah,
There
but
we go.
well, you can't do anything about that.
Craig, you've got to have patience, man. You're on a rush all the time. Just take your time. That's part of farming. You just have to wait for tomorrow, wait for a better day. We're in the lap of the gods now regarding weather.
And of course, you are the voice of experience. You're the 4th generation. And my mate Philippa, she's with the next generation. She's with young Finlay.
Do you know, this is an incredible spot, isn't it? The River Tay, I hadn't expected to be quite so wide. It's stunning. What a great place to farm.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We're really, really lucky where we are. We've got the River Erne coming down that side, and it meets the River Tay, then it goes right out to the North Sea, just a few miles down the road at Dundee there.
The river's pretty big, and I can't help but notice that the land that side's quite low.
Yeah, so the land on that side is 3 metres lower than the high tide level on this side.
How do you manage that?
Well, with these banks we've built up over the years, it's kept them above the high tide level. So, in theory, this side should never get wet.
In theory.
In theory. However...
Yeah, I thought there might be a but, yeah.
However, in January the 5th last year, we had a massive flood here. The water came over the top and it blew out a 50-metre stretch in the bank right where we're standing now.
this spot here.
was
So
all
this
gone.
kind of dike that we're standing on wasn't here at that point?
No, it completely blew away. So the water came over the top and started eating away at the dry side. We came down in the truck, and as we came into the field, we were met by a lake. The whole field was underwater, 160 acres.
What was your feeling at that time?
Panic, absolute panic.
And what were you panicking about?
Just our land. That's what we base our whole business on. So to
So
take
you've been nurturing it
Exactly.
for years, for generations.
Absolutely, and to take 160 acres of that like that overnight, it was a massive shock to us.
If you're not a gardener, maybe, or a farmer, you don't understand just how precise you are
Yeah,
with your soil. It's
The
carefully
margins
nurtured
are
thing,
tiny, yeah, exactly. The smallest little differences can mean massive differences in yield. So small differences in nutrients, or it could have brought in some nasty diseases or pests in the water that had come on from the hills somewhere, travelled all the way down to here and come into our land, and we might not have been able to grow a crop in this again for a number of years. And the official salination line is at Newborough, which is just not even a mile down the river. So there was a worry there was going to be a salt content coming into this field, and too salty, it could have been out of action for a long time.
So what did you do about it?
So well, we looked at getting helicopters in and barges, but we realised we couldn't afford all that sort of stuff. It was just ridiculous. So we just had to wait until the summer and try and replace it ourselves with clay off our own land. We shifted about 70 to 80,000 tonnes of clay to fill this hole in. And with the water always moving in and out, it was a really difficult place to work. Access was difficult. And just shifting that volume of stuff and digging it out and replacing it was a big challenge.
It's oats in this 160 acres that was flooded. Why oats? Why choose oats of all the things you could have planted?
They're just the hardiest crop we grow. They'll grow in almost anything. So if oats don't grow here, then nothing will. So they're a good test crop to see if we're going to get somewhere with this land.
OK, so oats, typically Scottish and hardy. Let's find out more about them.
Oats, little golden grains of goodness. In Roman times, this crop was considered a weed, but today oats are experiencing a healthy surge. This year we're growing a massive 137,000 hectares of them in the UK to satisfy a porridge boom. It seems we can't get enough of these nutritious grains. And the good news is this flourishing crop is a farmer's friend too. Oats have an incredible ability to survive in poorer growing conditions. They're a water-loving cereal, which makes them ideal for Finley's flooded fields. Although now he needs some sun to dry them out, ready for harvest.
Well, it would be nice to get some of those oats in, wouldn't it? But with the weather outside, I'm guessing that's not about to happen.
Not today.
No, absolutely not. Wow, look at this. So this is where everything comes to. This is just one of your grain stores.
Yeah, that's right.
Massive. What have you got in here currently then?
So we've got wheat in here at the moment. We'd normally expect it at this time of year to be nearly full, but we're about 10 days to 2 weeks behind harvest, so it's not even halfway at the moment.
And where does that wheat go now? What happens next to it?
So that wheat stays here for nearly a year. It'll probably be well into next summer before we move that, so it's got to be kept cool and moisture down.
I can't help but notice this. What is it?
Well, this is a grain spear. This measures the moisture and the temperature. So it has a sensor in the middle and at the tip, and it sends it via this wirelessly to a computer in the office, letting us know every half an hour the moisture and temperature of the grain.
Wow, so it really is quality control while you're storing it, as
Absolutely.
well as once you've got it in. The job has not ended there.
Absolutely.
So what do you do then?
So all we've got to do is go up to the top of this heap and stick it in right up to the neck.
And you just have one of these, or do you have lots of
We have
these?
6
or-
of these, but we only have space for one of them just now.
OK, so boots off.
Boots off. Yep. Otherwise they'll just fill full of grain.
Will they?
Yep. And just get going.
Are you sure we won't sink into it?
You'll only sink as far as your knees. It'll be okay.
Wait, how often do you do this job?
Just once or twice a season.
It's not that easy, actually, is
No.
it?
Keep up, Philippa.
This reminds me of walking up a mountain through snow.
It's a bit like that.
OK, we're near the peak. We're near the peak.
We're nearly there. We've just got to get right to the
It's
very
like
top.
mountaineering. Who said farming was easy? No one actually did say farming was easy at any point. expecting this kind of challenge when you took up farming. Right, we're nearly at the summit.
Yep, we're just about there.
This really should have a flag on the end of that thing, shouldn't it?
Oh, we've got a wee orange light instead, that'll be fine. So we're just about the top, we'll stick it right into the middle of the heat. And that's a sample taken.
Oh, is it meant to have a light on it? It's gone
No.
out. Oh, yeah. What's
That's
flashing?
That's it, just saying it's up and running. So it just flashes every time it takes a sample, which will be about every half an hour or so, to save battery.
That's it. Job done. Who knew so much went into looking after crops? Gregg's been finding out about another one.
In Aberdeenshire, hidden in the hills, there's a farm growing a rather special crop that has boomed in popularity over the last few years. When I was a greengrocer, I hardly ever saw a blueberry, and if you wanted to eat one, you had to go to a posh restaurant. I never, ever imagined they would become such a refrigerator staple in the UK. In fact, last year we bought a whopping 25 million kilos of blueberries. That figure officially knocked raspberries out of the running for most popular berry in Britain, second only to the mighty strawberry. With their superfood status and almost twice the shelf life of other berries, it's no wonder blueberries are on the rise. Soft fruit grower Ross Mitchell began growing blueberries here in Stonehaven back in 2005 and is one of the most northerly growers in the world. They are nice. They're really juicy and really sweet. How many plants you got?
So we're growing about 150,000 plants here in farm.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is it tough growing blueberries this far north?
Climatically, it is definitely a challenge, and we've got a lot of things to deal with. We've got obviously a lot of wet summers, we've got a lot of rain.
Is this why you have polytunnels?
Yeah, we've got to, I mean, for harvesting at this time of year, obviously with the rain pouring down outside, we've got to have polytunnels. And then apart from the rain in the summer, we've got spring frost to deal with during pollination. So in 2012, we lost about 50% of our crop to a frost in May.
But May's late for a frost.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Half your crop, I
Half
mean,
your crop.
that's a disaster.
Yeah.
Never wanting to risk losing so much again, Ross invested heavily in a frost protection system, which became invaluable in April this year when once again he was hit by a late cold snap. Rather than trying to increase the temperature in the polytunnel, the system does something unexpected. Throughout the night, a network of sprinklers sprays cold water onto the plants. The low temperatures quickly freeze the water, encasing the blueberry plants in ice. Creating this winter wonderland may seem counterintuitive, but when a liquid is turned into a solid, this reaction creates heat energy, which is what protects the bud. When the frost begins to melt the next morning, the flower buds beneath remain healthy and undamaged. Fortunately, all this ice saved Ross's crop this year, but it's an expensive solution. So work's being done to find a cheaper alternative. Dr. Julie Graham from the James Hutton Institute in Dundee is leading the way. Why do blueberries have such an issue with the Scottish weather?
Because they've not been developed for Scotland, they've come from North America or Florida, so they're used to warmer climates.
What can you do about it?
Well, what we can do is we can take as many different varieties of plants as we can get our hands on, and we can grow them in Scotland and across the UK, and we can find the plants that grow well, and we can then use them as parents in a breeding programme.
For me, how it grows is less important than how it tastes. I want a beautiful blueberry.
If we can identify what genes in the blueberry are responsible for flavour and then follow those genes into a new blueberry variety, then we can be much more specific about what we're breeding.
Do you know what percentage of blueberry consumption is UK grown?
Less than 10% is homegrown, so 90% is imported. And with the massive demand that we have in the UK for blueberries, it's a tremendous opportunity.
While Julie is on a mission to develop the perfect blueberry, Ross and his team continue on with the day-to-day harvest. How do you pick them, Ross? I'm sure there's a technique.
Yeah, there is. So you want to cup your hands below, because they're quite small and fiddly, and then just roll with your thumb the ripe berries off into the palm of your hands. Okay. And just clear out any debris and into the punnet.
Well, that looked relatively simple. Let me have a go.
Yeah, give it a go. Come on, give it a go. So cup your hands and then roll with your thumbs.
I see. They're so light
Yeah.
that if you're being paid by the kilo or even by the punnet, you've got to do hundreds.
No, you're right. Yeah, the strawberries, they'll pick about 12 kilos per hour, whereas with blueberries, they'll only pick about 3 kilos per hour per picker. So, but that's why they're a lot more expensive to pick.
You've got to be quick and gentle. Look at this. Look, I'm getting like to be a bit of a demon at this. Look at them. They're beautiful. One of the problem is that they don't all ripen in a cluster.
No, they don't.
So you have to kind of work around the ones that aren't ripe. And if I accidentally pick one that's not ripe, of course, I've ruined it. It won't ripen. Yeah.
No, that's it. It's gone.
It's gone.
Mm.
I mean, I've been working quite hard on this, and that would just about make a muffin. During the harvest, Ross has to pick 2.5 million blueberries every day. So he has a team of 350 pickers to help him. With the difficulties of the climate and the dangers of the frost and the difficulty in harvesting them, Ross, why do you bother?
Okay. There is some advantages to growing this far north in Scotland. So the longer day length and the cooler temperate climate means the fruit is a lot sweeter and bigger, more plump. And then also when the northern Europe finishes and then the southern hemisphere hasn't started yet, there's a window of opportunity through September and the first half of October when there's nowhere else producing blueberries anywhere in the world apart from Scotland. So that commands a premium price.
So for a 6-week period, the only place in the world you can get blueberries is Scotland?
Yeah, that's right.
That's incredible.
It is, isn't it?
They're nice, mate. Growing soft fruit this far north definitely has its challenges. But if the demand for homegrown blueberries continues to rise, the future looks bright for the great British blueberry.
Well, it's actually boiling here now. The sun's come out, which is really good news because it means we might get to harvest some oats finally later on. But it's also nice to be sitting eating fruit in the sunshine, eh?
Yeah, these are lovely. I mean, Ross's blueberries are lovely. But the one issue I do have is the title of superfood. Because actually, there is no legal classification like a superfood. It's like junk food. You phone any government department, they can't tell you what junk food is. Neither can anybody tell you what superfood is. Now, I'm not saying they're not good for us.
Yeah, because I guess that's what we all think.
What makes a blueberry different to a strawberry? Why is one a superfood and one's not?
You're right, and yeah, if somebody says something's a superfood, I go out and buy loads of it and feed it to my kids.
Well, what happened was American blueberry farmers, they got a scientist to do some research into blueberries, and of course, he found lots of health properties in blueberries. But so would he have done if they'd have got him to do it into carrots or apples. And I know for a fact now that research is being done into the health-giving properties of raspberries. Right. I'm not suggesting you don't eat blueberries. They're lovely fruit. I'm just not sure that they're more of a superfood than raspberries and strawberries are. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
And from one crop that's doing amazingly well to one that's actually struggling a little bit. Oh, that's a sad sight, isn't it?
Yep, a few boxes here, Greg.
Loads of empty potato crates.
Yep, first time since 1892, no potatoes in this farm.
Really? What's happened?
Well, we've just found the growing conditions fairly tough the last few years. The cost of producing the crops going up and up and up, and the returns are exceptionally variable.
And you've been growing them for like over 100 years.
Yeah, very sad for our farm and our family, but you know, the old saying in Scotland, aye been. You can't keep growing things just because you've grown them in the past. No. You've got to move with the times.
No, I understand that. How is the potato industry in general?
Yeah, I think overall in the UK we have a very, very good, strong industry. Probably too strong. We're producing about 5 to 6 million tonnes annually for a 4.5 million tonne demand, and that is the basic problem.
So is consumption of potatoes going down?
In certain sectors. We're producing for the white pre-packed market, and that's the section that's sliding fastest.
I'm sad you're not growing them anymore, I really am, but I think the spud's got a huge future. Yeah. It's part of our soul.
Absolutely. For me, my #1 vegetable every time on the plate.
You know what it is? It's too easy for people just to open bags of rice and bags of pasta.
Doesn't make it right, you know. It's still a better product, the potato. I love it myself, but sadly for us, it's not viable to grow it.
Listen, where would we be without potatoes on our kitchen table? They've got a huge future, and new varieties are still being invented.
For the perfect Sunday roast, you're probably going to go for a Maris Piper. If you want nice mash, you go for a russet. And of course, for the perfect baked potato, it's got to be a King Edward. There was a time when we just bought a big bag of white spuds. Increasingly, we're shopping for the designer tatty.
I've come to Aberdeenshire to meet specialist potato breeder Finlay Dale, who's searching for the next big thing. A new variety with an improvement for the consumer and the grower could be worth a lot of money.
This particular one is salad stroke baby potatoes that you see in the supermarkets. We're looking for an improved or even perfect salad potato.
So what is the perfect salad potato?
And quite specific, because what you're wanting is a new variety with lots and lots of tubers, maybe 30, maybe even more tubers per plant, but all this size.
Nice and
small.
I like nice thin skin, please.
Nice thin-skinned.
Lots of flavour.
Flavour.
I don't want it to fall apart when I boil it.
That's
or
right.
Or if I've run off for 2 minutes
You want
because the foam
perfect
ran.
shape, no
Yeah.
defies.
Thank you.
A bit of flavour, but you don't want very high dry matter because then it just goes down to mush, down to soup.
Yeah. So that all starts here.
The choice of the parents is crucial. If you don't have a character in there from the start, you won't have it in your perfect potato.
Through continual experiments with different parent plants, Finlay hopes to find a winning combination and a new, superior kind of potato.
When you're breeding 2 plants together, how do you know you're not all going to get the bad bits?
Well, it's like all families and all genuses. You get good and you get good and some not so good, perhaps I should say. But basically, you generate a whole range of variation in the family, and the next operation to get it from here is out to the field and start selecting for numbers, for size, for shape, all the traits you've mentioned, and for disease resistance as well.
Each new plant produced must be grown on and monitored to see how it performs and whether any improvements have really been made.
It could take 8 to 10 years, but you never know. This could be the future of salad potatoes on our plates.
So once a breeder like Finlay, once he finds the potato he wants, then what does he do?
Well, then he has to turn that into a seed potato.
And a seed potato isn't for eating. A seed potato is grown simply to produce other potatoes.
Absolutely. So if I was a potato farmer, I'd take your seed potato, I'd plant it, it would grow lots of other potatoes underground, and those are what I'd sell.
But they're not seeds like we would recognise from like a tomato
No.
or out of a fruit. They're tiny little potatoes.
Absolutely.
But a potato grower needs hundreds and hundreds of seed potatoes.
Fields and fields and fields of them. And I mean, Scotland, where we are now, is one of the world's greatest places for producing seed potatoes. Our seed potatoes from here get exported all over the world.
So farmers are growing potatoes to eat and potatoes for seed so that they can grow other potatoes.
Yeah. So I went to visit a farm, not that far from here, actually, a seed potato farm, to find out a bit more about some of those challenges.
The main challenge is to make sure that every single seed potato produced is healthy.
To you and I, this might look like a perfectly innocent potato plant. But in a field of thousands, this one plant could spell disaster for the entire harvest.
This plant is a rogue, which means it's either the wrong variety of potato or a carrier of disease. And a rogue plant will produce rogue seed potatoes. So, a highly trained team of roguers must be brought in to weed out the wrong uns. Their work is what makes the seed potato crop so valuable, by making sure any unwanted plants are eliminated. Here are some of the suspects they're looking for. Blackleg, a common disease, a bacteria resulting in a blackened root and rotting potatoes. Mosaic viruses, identified by subtle mottles on the leaves, which can produce rings on the potato skin. Potato leaf roll virus causes the leaves to curl up and a significant reduction in potato yield. Rhizoctonia, a fungal pathogen that has similar symptoms to blackleg, but also causes blemishes and deformity in the crop. Scottish seed potatoes are prized the world over, worth millions of pounds to the British economy. Upholding that reputation is Robert Doig of Caithness Potatoes.
So why is Scotland so good for seed potatoes?
A lot of it's because of days like this, Philippa. It's in the middle of July, it's 12 degrees, it's been raining pretty much all day, and a lot of the diseases we are trying to prevent are spread by insects like aphids, and aphids really don't like continuously cold, miserable weather.
Well, I can understand that, you know.
We in Scotland have isolated ourselves. We have set up an industry-wide safe haven scheme that quite a few of us participate in, which means we close our system so we don't import seeds from anywhere else, so that we can pretty much ensure that certain pests and diseases are absolutely not present here at all, zero tolerance.
The fields are inspected throughout the season, and a well-rogued field can make the difference between £180 per tonne of prize seed potatoes, or a fraction of that if it goes for cattle feed.
The other thing we're looking for, obviously, is the wrong variety being planted in the field, and maybe an odd potato that's got mixed in with the crop during its whole processing.
So how hard can it be to stroll through a potato field and find the odd ones out?
Well, the differences between one variety and another can be quite small, so it is quite difficult to find them. And the same with the diseases. Some of the diseases express themselves very subtly, so it can be just little changes in colour from one plant to the next that give away the fact that this plant has got a certain disease.
It means tatty roguing is one of the most skilled and important farming jobs in Britain. And it's thanks to teams like this that our seed potato industry is thriving.
Tatty roguing. I mean, that's a great name for a job. Have you ever done that?
I have, a long, long time ago, but
Really?
yeah, it's a very important job, you know.
Right, OK, now look, you're our man with his finger on the pulse. What news of the potato harvest, Jim?
Well, I'm going to start with a seed potato harvest. Pretty early days for, well, all the potato harvest. So on the seed potatoes, they're only 20% of the way through. Things are looking clean, but too early for yield results. However, on the main potato harvest, and this is the really interesting one, now we have seen, as you know, the supply and demand of potatoes has been a bit out of kilter. So the total area of potatoes has actually come from 121,000 hectares down to 112,000 hectares.
Fine, it's a bit early to know how the harvest is going to get on.
Exactly, exactly. But the price this year is looking slightly better. So hopefully the reduction in area planted is going to benefit the farmers.
Brilliant, and that's good news.
Absolutely.
Other good news is, of course, the sun has come out, so hopefully Finley can start harvesting with the help of our Philippa.
We're up on the hillside. Here, the oats are a few days ahead of the ones in the valley, and now that the weather's improved, they're ready for us to harvest.
Now, if you just take your foot off the brake,
Yeah.
we're rock and rolling now.
And that one down.
And then you can just start going forward and just try and catch the edge of that crop
I
there.
need to go right out wide, don't I?
A little bit, yeah.
I love driving combine harvesters. So we've got 3 combines working these fields today, just to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 of them are ours, so we normally have 2. But we've got the extra one in because we're 2 weeks behind where we should be. And the weather only gets worse at this time of year. So.
Yeah. So is there any difference between harvesting oats and harvesting wheat?
Yes, there is definitely a difference between harvesting them. It's a lot more difficult to harvest oats, actually. The straw is longer, and it also tends to be a bit wetter, which makes it quite difficult and wants to always wrap around the combine.
What's the top speed on this then?
It's about 32 kilometres an hour on the road when we're in the road gear, which doesn't sound very fast, but when you're in this size of machine going through a town, it's pretty scary. Now, we're just going to empty to this trailer here. So you can go press and hold that button, and you should hold it a wee bit longer. Just see the what we're coming out here.
It's coming out, yeah.
There you go, now you can let go now.
There's my funnel.
That's your funnel. Now we're going to try
So
and
where
line
am I
that up
aiming
to the
for? The
trailer.
tractor?
Yes,
Oh my
I'll
God.
keep you right.
Not
Go.
the tractor, actually, the trailer. It's
Go
quite an
right a wee
important
bit.
difference. We're approaching the
Yep.
trailer. What do I
Yep.
need to do?
No,
Slow down,
you're
slow
okay.
down?
Yeah,
No?
you're
What
okay.
am I going to
Go left
I
a
feel
little.
like I'm too far away.
No, you're okay. Go left a little bit. Press the bottom yellow button
Yeah?
and pray that.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Is it above it? Oh,
Look at
okay.
that.
Can you imagine dumping all those oats on the floor by mistake? That would not be good. So it's filling it up gradually. I can see it out of the corner of my eye disappearing from behind us.
Exactly.
About there?
Forward a
Keep
wee bit
going
more,
a little
maybe.
bit. Ooh,
Go
sorry.
right a bit. That's okay. Now just stop there.
Oh my goodness.
No, you're fine. You're perfect. You're ideal. Just keep going at that speed. Just keep going at that speed. Ideal. Look at that filling up nicely
Look
in
at
there.
that. It's like proper expert combine driving.
It certainly is.
I guess you've not known anything else, but working, you know, the business is a family business with farming so often, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
Absolutely.
It's like the only business where there's an assumption that you're going to take over.
Yeah, there is, but my dad never forced that on me. He never tried to persuade me to be a farmer. It's just what I always wanted to do.
You love it. Do you
But
think it's in your blood?
I definitely chose that. Yes, I think it kind of has to be. So if we go left,
How come I enjoy it so much
I
then?
come left a little bit and just slow down a little bit.
And when we then offload into the trailer, where does it go next?
So from there, it goes into a chaser bin, which then puts it into trailers or trucks, which run it back to the farm.
And that's where Gregg now is.
Mate, I have to ask you, what on earth is that?
Oh, Greg, this is our big oven. This is a grain drying plant, but basically it's for drying the crops.
All of them?
Yep, we dry oilseed rape, we dry barley, we dry wheat, and we dry oats through this plant here.
How does it work?
Well, along the side here we've got 3 big burners, which are putting hot air up into the grain, and there's fans that are drawing the heat through the grain to reduce the moisture content.
Why would you want to do that?
Well, to long-term store the crops, they've got to be down to 14% moisture. Otherwise, they would just go off in the store, they would rot.
How long would you store them for?
Some of our crops here can be up to 12 months before they're sold.
How do you know when they're dry enough? What stops you cooking them?
What we've got to do is sample the crops, the sample as it comes out of the dryer.
All right, let's have a look.
Okay.
And it's not cheap, is it, farming?
No, no, no.
I mean, when you look at fields of crops, you don't imagine 30-foot ovens. Right, so what happens now?
Okay, Greg, this is the moisture meter. This is where we test the grain to see what moisture is coming out of the grain dryer at. It's very important because it won't store long term, as we said before. So we need this to be below 15, ideally around about the 14 mark.
Righto.
Put the grain in and wait for the moisture. And there we go, 13.3, so that's good for storage.
Great, and that can store now for up to a year?
Correct, yeah, possibly even longer. We're blowing fresh air through these crops when they're in store to keep them fresh for the customers.
Now look, you didn't have a good time last year, did you, David?
No, we had a massive problem on the farm with the flooding last year. It cost us a lot of money. It was £250,000 worth of revenue between wheat and potatoes was lost with the flooding.
Crikey.
So, a big hole to fill this year.
Right, OK, well, how important then is this year's harvest?
Yeah, we're looking for a good harvest this year, Greg. We're needing good yields. The prices are down globally, so we're needing good yields to make up for that.
Well, you're not the only farmer, unfortunately, who's had a tough time. I mean, the news this year is full of stories of dairy farmers having a tough time. Many of them aren't being paid enough money for their milk to cover their costs. Our mate James is a dairy farmer, and he took a trip to Cumbria.
If there's one thing Britain grows best, it's this stuff. Grass.
It's easy to take for granted, but these tiny blades of grass work hard every day converting sunlight into masses of energy. They're like nature's miniature solar panels on a massive scale.
Look around and you'll see we've carpeted 2/3 of all our farmland green. Grass is in fact our biggest harvest. To bring it in, we need help from a group of lovely ladies. I grew up working on my family's dairy farm, so I know just how difficult and rewarding this type of farming can really be. I've come to meet Cumbrian dairy farmer Robert Craig, whose hungry herd are real connoisseurs of the green stuff.
I mean, what a sight, Rob. This is just like a river of cows flowing into the field. I mean, they've just come back from the milking parlour now, and we look, they're just charging onto fresh grass. They are very happy ladies.
They know it's feeding time, so they're coming back with new enthusiasm. I mean, look at them grazing away, and you can just hear that, can't you? Hear that munching.
I know they eat a lot in a day, but I've never actually tried to visualise it.
Now, one of your cows, what, 100 kilos of grass a day?
That's what we want to measure, James, about 100 kilos. Let's see how big a heap 100 kilos is.
It's going to be a big old pile, isn't it? And it's all not light stuff, so...
There we go.
There we have it. So, incredibly...
Exactly, look at that.
This pile of grass, 100 kilos of grass, is what one of your cows eats every single day.
Yeah.
Multiply that by 400 and Robert's cows need a massive 40 tonnes of fresh grass each day. Which means he's had to become something of an expert at growing the stuff. Over the last 10 years, he has pioneered a system to increase the productivity of his grassland by a third. That's like gaining an extra 60 hectares without buying a single field. The secret is in the way he manages the grass and the way his cows graze it. He moves them to a fresh pasture every 12 hours.
Oh, wow, look at this, Rob. It's really opening up. Fantastic. I mean, it's such a patchwork of greenery, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fairly clear to see from here where we've grazed. Every paddock we're looking at is at a different stage of growth.
And the key to it is keeping the cows moving around so that they're on the right paddock at the right time.
That's right, actually getting in there and harvesting the grass with the cow at its absolute optimum.
The majority of Robert's grass is ryegrass, ideal for his hungry herd because it's very fast growing. Just like the crops we eat, there's a window of opportunity when it's in its prime. If the cows are going to get the full nutritional benefit, that's when they have to harvest it.
Well, this ryegrass that we're looking at here, it only ever has 3 active, healthy leaves at any one point. As soon as it starts to grow a 4th leaf, the first leaf that it grew dies and withers away. So we're looking for ideally, to be grazing or to be harvesting a grass plant when it's got 3 really healthy leaves on it.
Nice, healthy leaves, yeah.
You can see this plant here, this is the first leaf, so this is the last time it was grazed.
Yep.
We've got the second leaf there, and we've got another leaf just coming out the top there. So this is about 2.5 weeks since it was grazed, and almost ideal really to be grazed.
That's really interesting. So always try and catch it at that 3-leaf point, not letting the cows stay on a patch of grass too long. You really want to get them in for 12 hours and get them off again.
That's right, on-off grazing, and then that allows the plant to recover so you're not back into that paddock again and then for about 3 weeks.
Robert's increased the productivity of his grass by harvesting it at the right time, as well as giving it proper time to recover. The result is lush pastures his cows can graze 9 months of the year, and a nutritious silage they can eat throughout the winter. The milking parlours where Robert turns grass into cash. Every day, each of his cows produces 28 litres of milk.
It's nice actually doing some work and not just walking around a field.
There's something almost therapeutic about being in the milking parlour. It's like another world where you are entirely focused on the cows.
As soon as you get into milking, you just float away and just get into it.
As dairy farmers, it's also where we get to see the fruits of our labours.
Great cappuccino milk this. Look at the froth on it. When
Fantastic, isn't it?
When it comes from grass, you get loads of froth.
Loads of froth. You just want to pick it up and drink it, don't you? No, it's good stuff.
But 2015 has been a tough year for us dairy farmers. Ironically, a lot of that's down to a bumper grass harvest last year. Great for us feeding our cows, but when farmers all over the world have such a strong season, it creates a global surplus of milk.
Too much milk, so the prices are on the floor. Irrespective of how the milk's produced, we're all suffering really at the moment.
And all we can do is just make sure we keep our costs as low as we can, keep our herd of cows right, and then just wait for the time to come back again.
Yeah, absolutely.
on, ladies. Come on in.
It's hard times like these when Robert's farming methods come into their own.
Straight back to the grass now, then, cows.
When milk prices are low, Robert relies on being able to feed his cows as cheaply as possible. But the real benefit of his system is that he doesn't have to compromise on what they eat. His lush Cumbrian grass is one of nature's finest meals.
Very happy cows, lovely lush green pastures there. And here we've got a very happy farmer,
Yep.
I would say.
Oat harvest.
Harvest is underway at last.
Absolutely. Delighted to see the first couple of fields of oats being cut now, and weather's improved dramatically, and it's all looking good going forward. Just need another few days of good sunny weather.
Absolutely. And oats are really having a bit of a revival, aren't they? Derek, you're a food chemist. We're all getting the idea that oats are very healthy, but not sure that everyone really knows exactly why.
Oats are chock full of fantastic things, vitamins, minerals that the body needs. But the main thing, which it's actually got a legally approved health claim on, is a natural polymer called beta-glucan. And what it does is that it can lower your body's cholesterol level, and then by doing that reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease.
So if you've got high cholesterol, then eating oats can actually make a difference.
Yeah, that's proven. What it does is actually cholesterol in the body produces bile acids, and they're needed for digestion. So when they're secreted during digestion, they get meshed up in the beta-glucan or your porridge. And so the body has to take its own cholesterol and produce more bile acids, so your level just goes down.
Okay.
So the other benefits it also has is it makes you feel fuller for longer. I mean, it's quite easy to demonstrate how this works. So what we have here is beta-glucan that's been extracted from oats. So you can see it's a nice dry powder. It doesn't work, it's not like that naturally.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is add it to the bowl, add some hot water, stir it around, and you'll start to see this viscosity working.
Okay. While you're doing that, I can't help but see the photos of you and the Olympic teams. And that's coaching you've been doing, is it?
Yeah, it is. I coached Eve Muirhead's team last year to the Olympic bronze medal in Sochi.
For curling?
For curling, that's right, the Winter Olympic Games. And it's interesting because we've heard from Derek the health benefits of oats, and I can testify to that. The girls use oats all the time in their diet. The game can last over 3 hours, so they often have porridge before the game starts as a snack food as well as for breakfast.
That makes sense because the beta-glucan's making them fuller for longer. This is the effect. Wallpaper paste, some people describe it.
That's the scientific term, gloop.
And this is why when you're cooking porridge in a pot and you don't clean up quickly, it spot welds to the side.
It does. It does. If you can avoid that, you can find a way of avoiding porridge spot welding to the side of the saucepan, I'd be a very happy woman. So that is what your tummy's filled with, which doesn't look very nice, to be honest. But that's what keeps you feeling warm and full for a little bit longer. So we should all be eating more oats, which makes you a happy man.
Absolutely. More eating the better. That's why we're going to increase our acreage of oat growing going forward. We've stopped growing potatoes. Oats are growing 5% year on year for human consumption. We intend trying to fill that market.
Right, absolutely. And plans for next year are already well underway. I mean, I know you think years ahead, but Gregg and Finlay are out even now planting for next year.
Finlay, I like it in here, mate.
Yeah, it's
lovely.
Good. Yeah, it's nice in here.
Very comfortable. What is it you're sowing?
So we're sowing wheat at the moment.
How does it work? How do you do it?
So what we're doing is we've got a power harrow, which is just mixing the soil and smashing it up to create a nice fine tilth, lots of small soil particles. And then the seeding behind us in the hopper is getting blown down the tubes using air, and it's just placed into the ground with a thin covering of soil on the top.
Churn it up, seed it, cover it over lightly.
As easy as that.
Why are you seeding now? Does that not mean it's going to grow through the winter? That seems a bit odd.
Yeah, so what happens is that we have spring and winter crops. So the winter crops are sown around about now. And it's just because when they get to winter, they stop growing. So we need to sow them now so they get to a certain height. They just get about this sort of height above the soil, and then they shut down for winter. They essentially go into hibernation. We can't sow too early because then they get too big and the frost kills them.
I see. They'll just sit there through the winter in
Absolutely,
their own like.
Yeah.
Hang on, that means that you are harvesting at the same time as you're sowing wheat. That's a busy time.
Yeah, it's full on. Everything comes at once. It's just when the weather's good, we're doing the seeding and we're doing the harvesting. But that's just par for the course. We're used to it. And this year it's not quite as bad because we don't have any potatoes to lift as well.
We're talking potatoes, wheat and oats, three absolute staples of our kitchen table. But earlier in the year, I met a man who's got a very new take on an old favourite. When it comes to farming, your location can be your biggest strength, but it can also be your biggest weakness. I'm here in Inverness, and it's a beautiful part of Scotland, but we are hundreds of miles from the main produce markets. Wholesale markets such as these are a prime place to sell fruit and veg. But with transport costs high, distance can be a real disadvantage. It's this problem that's forced farmer Steve and Jack on the Moray coast to diversify. Although blessed with long daylight hours and the perfect soil to grow root vegetables, he can't compete on price. And it's this dilemma that's led him to grow unusual types of carrot. Oh, I like that. What is that?
This is called Purple Elite. So it's quite a vibrant colour, but if we snap it open, you get this fantastic little array of colours. We've got some red carrots here.
That's a pretty thing. And I've seen lots of different colours. I've never, ever seen a red carrot before. Is it orange in the middle or is it pink?
No, it's pink right through.
Yeah, that's beautiful. How many different colours?
At the moment, we've got about 5.
How many colours do you want?
I want the full rainbow.
Is that right?
We're going to keep going.
I think that's great. What got you into this innovation in the first place?
Transport's a massive cost for us. If we were to grow the standard carrot in the north of Scotland to supply the main population areas in the UK, it could be up to 1/3.
A third?
There's a big additional cost of getting our product to market from the north of Scotland. There's no doubt about it.
So, a third of the price Stephen gets paid for his carrots goes on transport. This is huge, and much more than any grower down south would spend. By transporting a speciality carrot rather than a standard carrot, Stephen can charge a premium, making the haulage costs worthwhile. But his love of carrots runs deeper than this. He is passionate about changing our carrot eating habits, all inspired by a trip to America.
Approximately 90% of the carrots grown in the States are eaten raw, often between mealtimes for snacks.
How does that compare with us?
In the UK, it's probably the opposite. The vast majority of the carrots that we eat, we cook. There's a massive opportunity, largely untapped for this type of produce, to find its way into between meal snacks.
Is there much of a market in snacking?
The more you look around, the more you see different types of snacks becoming available. So there's clearly an opportunity out there. Whether we're going for a drink, whether we're going to the cinema, it goes hand in hand with many activities.
I don't suppose the different colours taste differently, do they?
It's quite subtle, but they definitely have different tastes.
Do they?
Yeah.
So can I try a purple one?
Sure.
The sweetness is there, but there's a real earthiness to it as well.
Yeah. The orange often has a slightly bitter aftertaste to it, which the different colours, they don't.
What about red one?
Give it a try.
Not as sweet as this, but a beautiful looking thing. Yellow?
Also slightly different, yeah.
I'm enjoying this. The yellow one's got an almost herby finish. They're all beautifully sweet.
Yeah.
All lovely and crunchy.
When you look at the core of the traditional type carrot, there's quite a big woody core there, which doesn't taste great. Whereas this one here, very slim, tender core, and it's perfect for snacks.
I feel like Bugs Bunny. You know, I think we've got a way to go before we convince kids to snack on vegetables rather than crisps and cakes, you know. But I hope that he does do it, because supplying vegetables to the UK from the Highlands of Scotland, that's not easy at all.
No, quite a challenge. So, James, harvest headlines, how have you got on?
Do you know what? I'm going to start with grass. And the reason I'm going to start with grass is because I'm a dairy farmer and I farm down here in Herefordshire. So we feed a lot of grass to our cows. And on a normal year, we'll take 3 or 4 harvests of grass off our fields. This year, we've had 5. 5 cuts of grass silage. It's just meant we've been able to fill all our stores up. And it's actually been the story across the whole of the country, especially Robert Craig up here in Cumbria, who we saw earlier on in the programme. He's had an equally good year. So for grass, absolutely thumbs up.
So what about the strawberry, the #1 soft fruit we've discovered? How have they got on?
Well, so far reports have actually been pretty good. Now, I went to see Will Stewart, who grows strawberries not far from here, to find out more.
We've had a very good harvest this year. Last year we were looking to grow over 2,000 tonnes. This year we intended to grow another 100 tonnes more. And in an actual fact, we're going to end up growing the best part of 2,300, 400 tonnes.
So, I mean, that in itself, you must be really pleased with that. So from just a purely yield point of view, from exactly the same area of strawberries, you've got a lot more of them.
Yeah.
And you see the demand for strawberries obviously going up as well.
The demand for quality is always there. And if we can continue producing the quality of product that we are at the minute, then I see a good future.
Oh, yeah. Scottish strawberries at their very best.
The best.
Oh, that's really good.
Well, that's great for the strawberries. Any news on the raspberry front?
British growers are predicting this year that the total UK harvest will be 14,000 tonnes, which is a 30% increase on last year. Now, it is just a prediction. Obviously, there are autumn raspberries coming in, but it's looking pretty strong.
But does that mean they're going to be a third cheaper than last year?
That's a problem, because if everybody's got raspberries, you might find the bottom falls out the price, and the farmers actually won't get much money. That's an issue.
And you've got to remember, raspberries are a fresh produce. They can't really be stored very long.
What else?
Well, I think now we move on to cereals. Now, we are standing in their wheat field, so Finn and David Hay, do you want to come on in?
Hi, guys. Good. Very good.
Now, the cereal harvest overall, I mean, the weather has affected harvest up and down the whole country, but especially down here in Cornwall as well. Now, we've spoken to a farmer called Jeremy Oatey.
No way!
Farmer Oatey,
Farmer
are you serious?
Oatey. We are talking about his barley. Now, he's actually had really good yields on the barley. However, like most other cereal farmers, the harvest has been tricky as well. So, David, how's your barley harvest been?
We've had a good harvest this summer, despite the wet weather that we had in the summertime. Barley's just yielded below 11 tonnes per hectare, and wheat just over 11 tonnes per hectare. So yield-wise, we're very pleased, and quality so far has been great.
Brilliant. And, I mean, you grow oats as well, Finn. How are they looking?
Yeah, so we just got started here with you guys. That was the first of the oats being harvested, so we're really pleased with how they went. They got off to a slow start at the beginning, with a cold spring. But as the summer went on, they seem to have got better and better, and we're hoping that they've gone and done pretty well.
David, what about that flooded oat field that we were in?
Well, it's amazing how it's turned round, Greg, from 10 feet of water into what looks like a promising crop of oats. And it's nearly ready for harvest, we'll know in the next few days.
So it wasn't quite the disaster, would you say, that you thought it was going to be?
No, the crops have improved a lot, but it's been a big hit for us financially. We've lost 2 crops out of that field, 160 acres, 2 crops missing, big financial cost.
Okay. Well, it is a beautiful evening, and you have started harvesting oats at last, so it's kind of time to celebrate. And time also for us to say thank you so much for having us. This is a busy time, lots of stress on, we know. And fingers crossed the combine harvesters, now they've started, can keep going for at least a few more days and get the crops safely in.
I've really enjoyed being up here. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers.
Tomorrow, we're in the West, which is home to some of the most pioneering farmers in the country.
We'll see the apple harvest coming in, get a taste of Somerset's finest.
James will be joining one young farmer who's adding a splash of colour to the Shropshire countryside.
So, Stephen, the magic question, quinoa or quinoa?
And we reveal some intriguing new farming ideas.
I've never seen celery grown on a raft before now. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
And that's all here. Same time, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Coming up on BBC Two, Hollywood glamour and the cult of celebrity in Simon Sharma's Face of Britain next.